she brought her little girl on a blind date. But the single dad's reaction changed everything. The moment Grace stepped into the cafe with a toddler balanced on her hip, the air seemed to shift as if fate itself had taken a sharp breath. She almost turned back when she felt the weight of judgment she had carried for years settle on her shoulders again. That familiar fear that showing her whole truth would cost her yet another chance at happiness. The blind date was already risky, but bringing her little girl felt like lighting a match near her last hope. Still, she walked forward because love had taught her that hiding never saved anyone in the end. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people choose compassion, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this exist because hearts still care, and your support keeps them alive. Grace had not always been this cautious, this tired. Years earlier, she had been a woman who trusted easily, who believed promises without asking for proof. That trust had left her alone in a small town in Ohio, raising her daughter Ava after a relationship that collapsed the moment responsibility appeared. Since then, Grace learned to live carefully. She worked long hours at a medical billing office, memorized grocery prices, and stretched every dollar until it almost broke. Ava became her anchor and her compass, the tiny hand that reminded her why she kept going, even on the nights when exhaustion pressed so hard she could barely breathe. Dating was something she avoided, but loneliness has a way of whispering when the house grows too quiet. The blind date had been arranged by a coworker who insisted Grace deserved more than survival. She almost canceled when her babysitter called in sick, and for a long minute she stared at her reflection, wondering if this was the universe telling her to stay home. Instead, she dressed Ava in a pink jumper, tied a bow in her curls, and told herself that honesty was better than excuses. If this man could not accept her life as it was, then he was not meant to stay. Thomas had arrived early, sitting at a small table near the window, his posture calm but guarded. He was a single father, too, though Grace did not know that yet. His past had shaped him differently, carving patience into his bones and teaching him that love was not loud declarations, but quiet consistency. When he looked up and saw Grace walking toward him with a child, he felt a flicker of surprise, not because of the child, but because of the courage it took to show up this way. He noticed the way Grace held Ava protectively, the way her eyes scanned the room as if bracing for impact. Grace expected disappointment or annoyance, the subtle tightening of a smile that meant the evening would soon end. Instead, she saw something unexpected in Thomas's expression. There was recognition there and a softness that felt like understanding rather than judgment. He did not look past Ava or treat her as an inconvenience. His attention shifted naturally, respectfully, as if a child at the table was the most normal thing in the world. As they settled into the rhythm of the evening, Grace felt her defenses lower inch by inch. She spoke about her work, her struggles, and the constant balancing act of motherhood without trying to make it sound easier than it was. Ava grew restless, and Grace felt embarrassment rise, the old fear that she was asking too much. Thomas responded not with irritation but with patience, pulling a small toy from his bag that he carried out of habit, a quiet remnant of his own life as a father. That single act unraveled something deep inside Grace, a knot she did not realize she had been carrying for years. Thomas's story unfolded slowly as well. He had lost his wife to illness 3 years earlier, a loss that reshaped his world and taught him how fragile and precious time truly was. Raising his son alone had shown him the depth of love and exhaustion Grace knew so well. He spoke of early mornings, packed lunches, and the constant effort to be both strong and gentle at the same time. Their experiences mirrored each other in ways that felt less like coincidence and more like design. The evening stretched on, not because of grand gestures or dramatic moments, but because of the simple comfort of being seen. Grace realized she was laughing, truly laughing, for the first time in longer than she could remember. Ava rested her head against Grace's shoulder, safe and content, as if sensing that this space was different. Outside, the sky darkened and the lights of the city reflected softly against the cafe windows, turning the ordinary moment into something cinematic and still. What Grace did not expect was how deeply Thomas's reaction would change her view of herself. For so long, she believed her role as a mother came with a cost, that love would always require sacrifice from her and never for her. Thomas's acceptance challenged that belief. He did not see her daughter as baggage or a complication. He saw her as proof of Grace's strength and capacity to love. That recognition felt like a healing she had not known she needed. As weeks passed, their connection grew quietly but steadily. They navigated the realities of parenting, work, and grief together, understanding that love after loss is not about replacing what was gone, but honoring it by choosing to live fully again. Grace learned that it was possible to be both cautious and hopeful, and Thomas learned that opening his heart did not diminish the love he still held for his late wife. Their children became part of the story naturally, not as obstacles but as the foundation of something honest and enduring. Just before the ending of this story, take a moment to comment below and share what kindness or second chances mean to you. Your words matter more than you know. Near the end of that first year together, Grace stood in her kitchen watching Thomas help Ava with a puzzle. The scene so ordinary, yet so full of meaning, it brought tears to her eyes. She understood then that the blind date had never really been about romance alone. It was about being brave enough to arrive as she was, trusting that the right heart would recognize her truth and choose it without hesitation. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. Let others feel the hope that grows when people choose compassion over fear. Grace learned that love does not always arrive the way we expect. Sometimes it comes quietly in the form of patience, understanding, and a single moment where someone looks at your life and says, without words, that it is enough. In that acceptance, everything changes.